former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, retired, says he is excited over the contribution of his government to Nigeria's 26 years of unbroken democracy. The then military head of state ushered in this era of democracy when he handed over power to the elected president on 29th May 1999, signaling commencement of the Fourth Republic. Speaking at the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, public presentation of its book titled 100 Years of Political Parties Evolution in Nigeria, 1923 to 2023. On Thursday in Abuja, the former military ruler urged Nigerians to continue to make democracy survive. And he spoke on and on to several other stuff. I'm not that voluminous. I'm taking my point on the from this news. So, Barrister, Abdulsalami said he laid foundation for the democracy we have today. There's no doubt he laid the foundation technically, but in reality, I see MKO Abiola as the person who laid the foundation, and that is the person we are celebrating every year, June 12th. But that is not my point here. My point is Abdulsalami gave us, I usually call it a phantom democracy. Do you see any is there any veracity to what Abdulsalami said? Does he? I think that's the right word. Does he deserve Nigeria's honor in any form or shape? Yes, he was the head of state. Remember, this man was the head of state for 11 months. And in that 11 months, the money this man stole, Babangida, everybody generalized Babangida's corruption as the worst ever. But honestly, I keep telling people this. If we want to do the calculation by ratio, Babangida spent about 8 years in government as head of state and he stole billions of naira. Abdulsalam spent only 11 months and stole billions of naira. So if we are calculating by ratio, honestly, Abdulsalam stole more money than, in comparison to Babangida that spent about 8 years. Honestly, he stole much more money than Babangida. That is one. And secondly, the so-called democracy he gave, the so-called sham in democracy he gave to us, that was after the so-called the present constitution that we have, Nigeria's constitution that we have. After they made it lopsided, because I consider Nigeria's constitution as lopsided and tilted in favor of the North. Barrister, based on these indices, do you think Abdulsalami deserves any form of honor? And remember the role he's been playing since the advent of the so-called democracy. He's been playing the role of a hypocrite, as far as I'm concerned. He was always trying to make peace during the election, make sure there is no violence or whatever. But one thing that he is so consistent in, or with, is that he's been hobnobbing with any government, all the successive governments. He's been dilly-dallying, hobnobbing with them. He's been playing to the gallery in all. Barrister, what is your take on all that I have just said?
Yes, when I heard that news that Abdulsalam was patting himself on the back as the father of our present-day democracy, in quotes, I really said, well, according to everybody, cannot give what he doesn't have. You can only give what you have. Back in 19 end of 1998, I believe, when Abacha died. And before Abacha died, it became clear to everybody that Abacha was transmuting from military head of state to civilian president. There were 5 political parties then. All of them endorsed Abacha for president. All the 5 political parties.
Yeah.
Leading to the famous phrase by the late Bola Ige, that there were 5 leprous hands.
Yeah.
Now, if the country had been so traumatized that it was accepted that nothing could stop Abacha. So the Nigerian people accepted the inevitable that Abacha was going to be the president. Then all of a sudden, we woke up and we heard that Abacha was dead. The person who ought to have been the new head of state, General Jeremiah Hosseini,
Yeah.
who was the most senior army officer then, was bypassed, and General Abdulsalami was made the head of state. I remember in relation to the return to civil rule, I remember his statement that he would not tempt God. He was saying it with reference to how Abacha died, that he will not tempt God. He's not going to extend the time. He fixed the transition within a year.
Yes.
And people were like, is it possible to do this within that time? And his response was that he does not want to tempt God. He just wants to do this thing and get away. Now, if the aim was to have the kind of so-called democracy we have now, then you can give him credit for enjoying, making it enjoy, or helping to make it come and enjoy for 26 years or thereabout. But if it is the aim of the democracy to bring us progress, to bring us unity as a country, and to bring us self-assurance and self-satisfaction, pride in our country, then it is a signal failure. On that angle, nobody can give him any accolades. Nobody can clean glasses with him, because everything that has happened in this democracy is virtually a sham. Nigerians are more divided today than at any time in our history. Yeah. We see no progress going forward economically. Our lives are worse now than they were at any time in Nigeria's history. So that is why I say, if it is just that we want democracy, I would have thought that you want democracy to achieve, it's a means to an end.
Yeah.
A democracy or the form of government should be a means to an end, the end of which is having a good society, having a stable society, having a progressive society. So if that is the one, then I have no accolade to give him. But if it is the sham democracy pretense that we are having election that people are electing, which is all compromise and pretentious, then I give it to him. He can celebrate the 26 years of the sham that we are now having as democracy. He can take it home, celebrate, but I will not celebrate with him. But I understand where he was coming from. He couldn't give what he didn't have. He didn't have what it takes to nurture and institute an enduring democracy that we want, that will bring us progress in the country.
Yeah, it is so sad. When I read it, anyway, I've always called him a shameless man since, especially since this democratic dispensation, where he always participated in one successive government or the other. pretending to make peace when there is no, every election has been worse than the previous, um, even though he's been part of the system. That is to tell you the kind of person he is. Yet,
He
the
is
moment,
he's co-chairman of the National Peace and Reconciliation Committee.
yeah, of course,
Now, at every election, they will call the presidential candidate and ask them to sign undertaking.
that's the point I was trying to make.
All this has been meaningless,
Yeah,
fruitless, and have produced nothing
nothing.
significant to the electoral process or the stability of Nigeria.
Yeah, that is it. And probably he's using it to make more money, amass more wealth, adding to the one he already stole from us. A sort of the worst part is that he does all these things, and at the end of the day, the election will produce nonsense, will produce fraud. Yet he will still continue to hobnob with the government of the day. The worst is even this one, that of Tinubu, for God's sake. And after that, again, he went, that man is just an unbelief. The truth is, I detest that man worse than Babangida. I see that man even worse than Babangida. Look, um, hate or love him, there are some areas, there are some things uh, that I think Babangida did well. There are some areas, though they may not be that significant, that overwhelming. But honestly, Babangida is still better than Abdulsalam. Is just a total. I just call that man a rogue. He just he stole in the broad daylight. He just stole our money, and horridly ushered in phantom democracy. Just horridly. And he just did it, and the next thing is just after doing that, he retired and started traveling. Probably the West, they honored him because it was unprecedented for a military man in Nigeria, in Africa for that matter, to just spend 11 months and willingly relinquish power.